Is the 15-year anniversary of the Blazers selecting Greg Oden first in the 2007 NBA draft. If Portland had a mulligan, they probably would have selected, the second pick in that draft, some guy named Kevin Durant. Tim, I'm going to say at the time, I would have taken Oden first 100 times out of 100. If you go back to 2007, it seemed to be the right pick. However, those two careers you can't really compare.
No, I mean, listen, Kevin Durant, as we see here, obviously is one of the great players of all time, which is the reason we spent all these days talking about Kyrie Irving. It's because Kevin Durant is his teammate. But Greg Oden in the national championship game against Al Horford and Joakim Noah in 2007 had 25 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 blocks in 38 minutes. He was an unbelievable college player. He looked like Tim Duncan or Bill Russell or name the great defensive center you want to think of. He was going to be an all-time player if he was healthy.
That other team in Los Angeles is making moves. After agreeing to a buyout with the Houston Rockets, John Wall plans to sign a free agent deal with the Clippers. Wall averaged 21 points and 7 assists in 40 games for the Rockets in 2021. He sat out the entire 21-22 season while the team tried to find him a new home. And take a look at this. According to our friends at Caesars Sportsbook, the Clippers have the third shortest odds to win the title next year, only behind the two teams that were in the NBA Finals. Rounding out the top 6, you see the Nets, Bucks, and Suns. Interesting. Back with us are Tim Bontemps and Matt Barnes. All right, the defending champions are favored to win the chip again next season, but who is the biggest threat to steal the Warriors' thunder? And I didn't mean the thunder. Matt.
First of all, I have them repeating as well, and to me, there's two things. One, injuries of it. You know, we've seen what injuries have been able to do with this team, from having a nice run to being the doormats of the league, and people really took pride in beating them down to be able to bounce back. So I would say health. And then I'm going to go to the LA Clippers. You know, the odds are, third best odds, but you really got to give T. Lue a lot of credit for what he's been able to do with this roster, minus their 2 stars for a majority of the time. Obviously, Kawhi missing all of last year, PG missing a big chunk of it, and this team was still in playoff contention. They have a nice young roster where guys know their roles. Reggie Jackson's been instrumental for this team. So I think this John Wall soon-to-be signing is not getting as much love as it should be because, like you said, he only played 40 games in the last handful of years, but he averaged 21 and 7. So along with PG and Kawhi healthy, this is going to be a scary team if it can all come together.
I mean, look, I think the Clippers are, to me, the favorites to win the West. I know the Golden State Warriors just won the championship, but the LA Clippers have a loaded roster. With Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and all the depth they have around them, you add John Wall to that mix now. This team is awfully, awfully impressive, and I think they've got a chance to be.
Now, let me help you out here, buddy. They're having trouble hearing you.
Oh, yeah?
You're making such great points. You're making such great points. But you got to project. You want to be heard.
Well, we'll see what we can do. But I think that if you look at the overall talent on this roster, the depth they've got, the ability to play in spread situations with athletes all over the place, I think the Clippers are, to me, the most dangerous team in the West.
I think the biggest threat to the Warriors is injury. We saw this team win the NBA championship without the number 2 pick in the draft, James Wiseman. He was on the bench the entire time. Now, he didn't knock my socks off when he was on the floor. However, when you watch the NBA Finals, we watch them go through the playoffs, they could use some size. They could use someone else besides Kevon Looney, who I expect them to bring back. I think Wiseman will be impactful. The chemistry, the culture, just the consistency of this franchise, this team, I think they go back to back. And I want to thank Matt Barnes once again for coming on and joining us. You can see Matt on NBA Today right after this program. And let me tell you about something that's coming. Fight ended in the middle. Oh, wow. Fools rush in, that's what we're doing? Fools rush in, that's what we're doing? Now that Kyrie has decided to return to the Nets, which means a reunion with LeBron James will have to wait. But fear not, Laker fans. Woj is reporting Russell Westbrook will pick up his $47 million option for next season. So, where do the Lakers go from here? They've got some work to do. You can see right here their salary cap situation is not great. They got $122 million already. They've got 4 rostered players. They're going to need a lot more than that. And they now have Russell Westbrook for $47.1 million. Tim Bontemps.
Dave Jacoby.
Good to see you. Also good to see Matt Barnes, who is joining us. Matt, you look at that last full screen of their current situation. They've got 4 players. They've committed $122 million. What do they do now that they do not have Kyrie Irving and they do have Russell Westbrook?
Very top-heavy team. But if you think about it, I mean, Russ didn't play as good as we're accustomed to have him play, but he still averaged 19 points a game. And I think the whole issue last year was just their big three getting chemistry. Obviously, AD missing a lot of time, and then Russ and LeBron figuring out how that duo was going to work, because both those guys are best with the ball in their hands. So, again, not many options as far as free agency, flexibility, trades that people are interested in. But it always seems to find that great players find a way to work things out. So obviously I feel like Anthony Davis's health is going to be a key to the Lakers season this season. But if that is not an issue, these guys will find a way to pick and choose their spots and get the most out of who they have on that roster.
When I think Matt saying these guys are top heavy, I think that's a charitable way to look at it. And as you went through it, Matt, and listed all the things. They don't have, there's limited trade options, there's limited free agency options, there's just limited options, right? And as good as LeBron James and Anthony Davis are together, there's just not enough around them for this team to be a legitimate contender. I mean, you look at the top of the Western Conference between the Warriors, the Clippers, the Grizzlies, the Mavericks, the Suns. You're talking about 5-6 teams that are automatically going to be better than these guys, even if AD and LeBron are healthy. So to me, this Kyrie situation was their one get-out-of-jail-free card, right? It was their one chance to get back in that conversation. Without that, to Matt's point, they're going to have to get really lucky on the margins just to get in the top 6, let alone to be a team that can make a run in the West.
So, Matt, my question for you is Russell Westbrook. Darvin Ham comes out and says he's part of the plan. He needs to play some defense. And then there's this rumored trade to the Pacers. And there's this rumored trade to the Nets. What is the psychology of a player like that on a team when you've been involved in trade rumors over the summer?
You know, Russ is known throughout his career to be one of the most mentally strong guys. I mean, he's faced a lot of hate and criticism in his run, but I've never seen more than I've seen in the LA situation. So I can't really say where his mental is or if something like trade rumors possibly affect him at this point. All I know is he's in the gym working hard, and I feel like he's going to come back with a vengeance. So if he is a Laker, which it seems like he's going to be, expect him to feel like he has something to prove. Again, although he still averaged nearly 19 points a game last year, had a very solid season, you know, when it comes to actual numbers, the team success just wasn't there. So expect Russ to come out and really play both ends. And although these guys are older, again, they're going to have to pick and choose their spots when they're able to do it. But the one thing I expect to get out of this new coaching staff with Darvin Ham and the rest of these guys is just accountability and effort. That's the two things that Darvin Ham will not stand for. So I think expect Russ to be accountable on both those ends.
From the moment Darvin Ham got this job, to Matt's point, he's talked about Russell Westbrook playing defense, fitting in, finding ways to be a part of this team, right?
Getting off the ball.
Getting off the ball. I mean, these are all things we've talked about Russell Westbrook doing for a decade. I'm not convinced he's going to do them. But to Matt's point, if Russ wants to come back with a point to prove and to prove people wrong, it'll be to come back and change his game in those ways where he can find ways to fit and help with this Laker team. Because if he comes back and tries to do the same thing he did last year, even if he is going to average 18, 19 points a game, it's not going to be enough for this team to get where it wants to go. If he comes back and is committed to being a role player and doing the kind of things that can really help them win, maybe I'll be wrong.
When they traded for Russell Westbrook last year, I really thought it was going to work, and it didn't. And here I am a year later, again, really thinking it's going to work. Matt, is that crazy?
But I feel like, no, that's not crazy. And I really feel like the next step in Russell Westbrook's development as a player, obviously, is learning how to change speeds. Russell Westbrook has been the signature for the most athletic, strong point guard we've ever seen in this game. You know, his athleticism is, you know, pairs to no one. But now that he's getting a little bit older and he's not above the rim as much, what's that next step to his game? So to me, it's slowing down, changing paces, not always being fast, but being quick. You know, so I think that's stuff he's probably working on at this point, understanding that, okay, I still have some in me, but I'm getting older. So let me work on my pace, my change of pace, and all the integral things. Again, he's a very solid mid-range shooter. Didn't shoot it very well last year, but over the course of his career, he shot it well. Obviously, he struggled with the three ball. But I just expect, you know, LA is a lot different than a lot of other places. So, you know, and he's from here. So he's getting it constantly. So I know there's nothing more that he wants to do than come out and just play good with this basketball team. And this team has some success.